Okay, let's take stock of the global handover from last night. There was a major rally in the US. In fact, yesterday in the afternoon when we were looking at the US futures, they were pointing to a significant jump, which is what seems to have played out in trade. The Dow, S&P, Nasdaq all did fairly well, particularly though the S&P is the index that shined out the most, crossing its lifetime high before retreating. It's also been an index which has rallied every single day since the end of July and is now up around a solid 3.5% for the month of August alone. This move across the US markets was led by the tech stocks, and particularly the FANG stocks, which were very active yesterday. On the losing side, you had Carnival Cruises, which didn't do so well, and you also had a JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America, which was sulking in trade. Now, barring all that, futures indicating how the markets are going to hold up the next day were pretty flat, maybe slightly positive. Dow futures were up around 30 points. S&P and Nasdaq futures were pretty much flat. But given the gain we saw in the US market, I'd say it was a pretty encouraging movement, and that seems to be the driving force for the Asia markets this morning, which are already open. We've seen big jumps in Japan with the Nikkei up 1.5%. We've seen the Topix up over 1%. Auto and tech stocks here are really jumping, and they jumped right off the bat in the morning. Softbank was up 2.87%, again nearing its lifetime high. Sony, also a stock we haven't heard about in a while, rose 2.84%. Coming to Korea, South Korean Kospi rose 0.8%. Australia's S&P ASX was up 0.2%, and in Australia we're going to get some jobs data at 9:30 a.m. this morning, so that's going to be a key monitorable for them. But it's clear, you can see the US market has had a rub-off on Asia, and that too a positive one. Now coming down to Europe, even the European stocks yesterday closed fairly in the positive. The Pan-Euro Stoxx 600 was up over 1%, which is a great indicator. Telco stocks were up 1.5%, which is another great sign. However, you do have travel and leisure. They were not doing that well yesterday. On the converse side of things, they were declining 1%. So that's kind of how the broader indices fared in Europe. Also, one thing to keep an eye out for is the UK GDP numbers came out yesterday. Q2 GDP in the UK shrunk by 20.4%, its largest fall in over a decade, and definitely sounding some bells there, but stock markets didn't seem to react too negatively to that. And two commodity checks like we do for you every morning, oil and gold. Oil prices recovered on the back of a massive inventory fall in the US. There was a 2% recovery in prices. Brent was up 95 cents or 2% to 45. WTI gained $1 or 2.5% to settle at 42.67. So oil prices showing some key recovery figures. Gold as well showing some key recovery. Monday, Tuesday, we had the largest single day fall for gold in 7 years. Of course, it had rallied to that 2100 mark nearly before it sharply retraced. Yesterday, spot climbed 1.4% to $1937 per ounce, and futures were up 0.1% at $1949 per ounce. So still far away from the high which they recently clocked, but a good recovery move seen in the metals as well overnight.